Hi everyone, welcome to Javaras. In the previous videos, we have created two auth to clients. First, we built confidential auth to client using Java and Spring Boot, and after that, we created a public auth to client using JavaScript. For the confidential client, we used GitHub as authorization server, and for the public client, we used Keycloak as authorization server. One important thing to note is that we created these applications from scratch. We did that for learning purpose only. We should always use well-tested and secure auth to libraries to build auth to clients, whether it is confidential or public client. But we have not touched what are the responsibilities of an authorization server. But don't worry, from this video onwards, we will deep dive into authorization server and we will build one from scratch. Normally, we don't usually build authorization server because if everyone starts building authorization servers for their applications, then what is the point of auth 2? But we will do that as part of knowing how it works. Even then, there are libraries to build authorization servers, but we will do it from scratch. In this video, first I will go through some terminologies which you might already be familiar with. Then we will do coding. We will not build the full authorization server in this video. We will just build the client registration part. That means we will be able to register new clients to our auth server and we will be able to generate client secrets for registered client. Now let's go over some terminologies. First of all, client application is an application which acts on behalf of user. So it fetches access token from authorization server and it passes that access token to the resource server in order to access the resource or in order to act on behalf of user. And there are two types of client applications, confidential client and public client. And we have built both of these clients in the previous two videos. Then we have resource server. Resource server is the server which contains all the resources which the client application requires. And these resource belongs to resource owner, that means the user. Not only resources, client application can perform some actions as well on resource server on behalf of the user. And we will build resource server in later videos of this playlist. Authorization server is the place where user or resource owner authorizes the client application. After successful authorization, the authorization server issue an access token to the client application, which the client application can use in order to get the resources or in order to act on behalf of the user. So Realm is a collection of applications or servers which share the same set of users and authentication scheme. That means any user with the same username and password, that means with the same account, can access all the applications which are in the same realm. In order to register a new client, we need to handle two things. First, adding a new client and then generating client secret. So let's see how to add a new client. In order to add a new client, we may have multiple things, but the four important things are the name of the client, sign in redirect URIs where the user will be redirected after signing in, sign out redirect URIs. So this is a set of redirect URIs which are valid for redirecting the user after successful logout. And then web origins. This is particularly useful for public clients only. So this contains all the origins or the domains from where we could send requests to the authorization server. After successful registration of a client, we need to generate a client ID. Client ID is a public information, but it should not be easily guessable. It should be unique for each client because two clients cannot have the same client ID. And since it should not be easily guessable, what we are going to do is we will generate a 32 character hex string and we will treat that as client ID. Now let's see client secret. So client secret is known to client application and authorization server. You should generate client secret only for confidential clients. This should be sufficient random. You should not use UUID libraries in order to generate a random client secret. So you can use secure random libraries for that. And what we will do is we will generate a 256-bit value and we will convert that to hex string. And that will be our client secret. Now we need to be careful while storing client secrets. You will present the client secret to the developer only while generating the client secret. After that, you will never show client secret to the user. You will store the encrypted or hashed version of it. Now let's start building the authorization server. Welcome everyone to the second part of the video where we will do our project setup. So I will use Spring Boot in order to create authorization server. Now in this video, we are only going to do the part where we will register a new realm and we will register a new client. Also, we will generate client secret. So I will go to Spring Initializer website at is star.spring.io. I have selected Gradle as build tool, Java as language, Spring Boot version 3.2.3, and I provided some project metadata like group, artifact, and name. And it will download a zip file, and we need to unzip that and open that in a ID. Let's go to the auth server application class and run it. Okay, now it is giving us error, and that is we have not specified the database attributes. So let's do that. But first of all, we need to start a MySQL server, and we will going to use Docker in order to do that. So we will run MySQL server inside a container using Docker. So for that, let's create a new file called docker compose.yml. Now I will just copy and paste the content here, and then I will explain. We added services node. We need only one service. I'm calling a database, and this is the image name MySQL, and latest is the tag. We need to export for 3306, and we need to provide some environment variables. So the root password is root, the database name is auth2, the user is dev, and MySQL password is pass. So we will create a MySQL server out of it. Now in order to use this docker compose.yml file to run the MySQL server, use this command docker compose up minus d. Now this container auth server database one is up and running. So go to application.properties. So I added these three configuration, and this is the URL of the database. Username is dev and password is pass. SQL init mode, and I will use always. So we will have one schema.sql file inside resources, and all the SQL queries of that file will be run at startup time. Let's rerun the application. Okay, now we can see it is working. Now let's move on to the next part where we will add the functionality to create realms. Welcome everyone to the third part of the video where we will create the functionalities to create a realm and see all the realms. So inside our server I have created a package called realms, and inside it I have created a class called realm. And for this entity I will define the table name as realms, but we need to have a table called realms in our database. So let's create a new file here, schema.sql. Inside schema.sql I will add SQL to create realms table. If it not exist, it will have two columns. First is ID, and it will be a primary key, it should not be null. Then second will be name, which is name of the realm. We need only these two information for a realm: private string ID, and annotate it with ID annotation so that it becomes primary key. Then private string name. Now here the primary key is ID and it has type is string. So we cannot use auto increment and something like that for the ID. We need to generate it ourselves. So let's implement one interface called persist table, and it will take the type of ID which is string. And we need to implement two methods, get ID and is new. So for get ID we will just return the ID, and is new. So the is new method is required in order to see or in order to check if this entity is new or not. That means if we need to update the entity in the database or if we need to create a new entity in the database. So for that I will create one variable here, private boolean is create, and let's create setter for that. So if the value of is create is true, that means it is a new entity. So I will just return is create. Now let's create the getter for name as well. Now let's create a realm repository, new Java class. This will be interface realm repository, and it extends CRUD repository. The entity type is realm and the primary key type is string. So that is it. Now let's create a realm service here. new Java class, realm service, and Rails service will be a service. So I will annotate it with service. It needs a realm repository, private realm repository, and let's make it final and add it to the constructor parameter. Now let's create some methods. So first of all, we will create a method to create new realm. So let's do that. Public create realm, and it will return a new realm, and it will take the name of the realm. So string realm name, and now we have a realm name. Now we need to create a realm ID. So what we will do is we will just manipulate the string. So for example, the realm name is this one, first realm. So the ID will be first hyphen realm. That means we will make each word in small case, and we will replace spaces with these hyphens, and that is it. That will be our realm ID. So let's create a method for that. Private static uh, string create ID for name, string name. We have a name, we need to create an ID for it. So return name dot replace. So we will just replace space with hyphen, and then we will convert it to lowercase. Okay, so let's do that. So string realm ID equal to create ID for name, realm name. Now let's create a new realm realm equal to new realm. The ID is realm ID, name is realm name. Now since this is a new realm, so we need to set the is create variable to true. Realm dot set create true, and this dot repository dot save realm, and let's just return it. Let's create controller, new Java class, realm controller, and this will be a REST controller, and let's have mapping, request mapping. This will map to a realms endpoint, and let's create a post mapping, and it will return a new realm, and the method name will be create, and let's say request body, and let's just type is map string string body. Let's get the realm name, equal to body dot get name. Here you would you would want to do some validation, like name should not be empty, it should have only some predefined characters in it, but we are not going to do that here. So we have a realm name. Now let's just return this dot service. Now we need realm service here, private final realm service, and add it to the constructor parameter. This dot service dot create realm name. So that is it, and return it. Now while creating a realm, you should first of all check if the user is authenticated or not. If he has the access to create a new realm or not. But we are not going to do that because that will take a lot of time. That means you need to manage authentication and authorization in your authorization server as well while creating a new realm client and everything. But we are just going to allow everyone to create realm and clients. So let's rerun the application. So start the application. Let's start in debug mode. Okay. Now we have some error. Port 8080 was already in use. Okay, so let's run it on port 8081. Server.port 8081. Debug it. Okay. Now go. Let's create a new HTTP request realms. So you can send request to this endpoint using anything like Postman, using terminal or whatever you want. I will use this IntelliJ ideas built in this API support. So I will add like create new. This is command. The request method will be post, be localhost and 8081, and this is the endpoint. Now content type application JSON, and here we need to specify the content. So let's the name, I will just say first realm. Let's send this request. We got this error, failed to execute insert root, and let's see what is the error. Okay, unknown column is create in field list. Okay, so we have a variable called is create here, but this there is no column for is create inside this schema. Since we don't want to store this is create in database, so let's make it transient, so it will not be persisted. There was some issue with the ID, so I'm running the application using gradle w boot run command in the terminal. Now let's send this request again. Okay, so the port is 8080. Send it. Now you can see we are getting this response back ID first hyphen rel, the name, and new is true. Since we don't want to see this new true, so we need to remove it. So let's go to uh, realm here, and here JSON ignore properties, and we want to ignore two properties. First is create, the second is new. This is create and new should not be visible in to the user or to the developer. So, okay, save it, rerun the app. So for that, and after that, let's send the request again. So we send the request. We are getting this error because there is already a realm with the ID first hyphen realm. So it is not able to create another realm with the same ID. So how to handle that? Let's go to realm service here, and we have this realm ID. So let's say realm existing realm equal to this dot repository dot find by ID realm ID dot or else null. So if existing realm, or let's just do this realm. So if existing realm dot is present, that means if there is any existing realm with the same ID, then we'll just throw runtime error, throw new runtime exception, and the message we will show is realm with ID equal to realm ID already exists exist already exists, so we are not able to create another realm with the same ID. So we will just throw this runtime exception and let's run it again. So and send this request again. We send it again. We can see realm with ID equal to first time already exist. Now we are sending this error structures as well along with the uh, this message, but we will handle it later. Now let's get another realm. So I will say okay. So here let's say second realm. Send the request. Now we are getting ID and name back. We are not seeing the new or any other uh, irrelevant fields here. Now we are able to create a realm. Now uh, let's create endpoint to see the realm as well. It will be public realm get realm with realm ID. So let's just return this dot repository dot find by ID realm ID dot or else null. So if no realm is present, then return null. So not relation realm. Let's create another method to get all the realms as well. Public iterable realm get all, and let's just return this dot repository dot find all. Let's go to controller and add these two. First is get mapping, which will return all the realms. So public iterable realm get, and let's just return this dot service dot get all, make get all. That's another get mapping public realm get, and so this request will be of like this the endpoint, that means localhost 8080 slash realm slash realm ID. So let's do that. ID here at the red path variable ID string ID and return this dot service dot get realm with the given ID. Okay, that is it. Let's save everything and rerun the app. So if I go here, let's create another request get all realms. So get so localhost 8080 and realms, and another one get specific realm uh, get 8080 this one and ID, let's say first realm. So first let's get all the realms. So we get all the realms. Let's get first realm. This first realm. Let's get third realm, which is not present. But if we see, we get empty response. Now in the next part of the video, we will implement the client registration. Welcome everyone to the fourth part of the video where we will do client registration. So I will create a new package here. So and all server new Java class, and this will be inside client package, and the class name will be client. So this will be the client entity, and let's have table annotation, and the table name will be clients. And we need few things. The first is the ID, and its type will be string. Let's call it ID only. Then we need realm ID as well. So private string realm ID. After that we will have a name, private string name. Then we will have one boolean flag whether it is confidential or not, and that will be required when generating client secrets, because we generate client secrets only for confidential clients. So let's do that. Private boolean is confidential. We need sign in, redirect, URIs, sign out, redirect, URIs, and web origins. Now sign in, redirect, URIs will be a list of string, but what we will do is we will store them in a database as a comma separated list of string. That means first URL, comma, second URL, comma, third URL. So that will be one string with comma separated URIs. And same for sign out, redirect, URIs, and web origins. So let's do that. Now I will say private string sign in redirect URI, private string sign out redirect URIs, and private string web origins. Now let's add constructor uh, for them. But here as well, we need to implement purchase table, and the type of ID is string. And in that case, we need to implement two methods, and we don't want to return new, so let's make it JSON ignore. And for ID, we will just return this dot ID as ID and return. So here as well, let's create a boolean which is create, and it will be transient. We don't want to store it in the database. And for this one, let's okay, we will have setter for everything. So return is create. So if it create is true, that means this is a new client. If it's false, that means it's existing client, and we just start trying to update it. Let's generate some things. So click on generate. Let's generate a constructor, and I will add everything. Let's remove is create. Now for ID, realm ID, we need setters. So let's set ID, realm ID, and set create, because the ID will be generated by our client service. Realm ID we will extract from the endpoint, and create we will set this method if this is a new client application. Okay, so let's create another interface which is client repository, and extends CRUD repository. The type of entity is client, the type of ID is string. Let's create a new doc class which is client service. Now before everything else, let's create, or let's write SQL to create a new clients table. So the table name is clients. We have ID which is character of 30, length 32. So the length is fixed and the length is 32 for the client ID. Then we have realm ID, and realm ID will be a foreign key to the realms table, and column ID is confidential. It will be a boolean. Then we have name, sign in redirect URI, sign out to redirect URI, web origin. So let's save it, and let's go to client service. Yes, here client service is a service, and it needs private client repository, and let's make it final. And if it's final, let's add it to constructor parameter. Now let's create first method which is create a new client. Public client create. It will take a client. Now for this client, we need to generate a client ID. Now the client ID will be a 32 character long random string. So for that, let's create a new package called util, and inside that create a class util, and here create a method public static string generate random string, and it will get a length. So int length. So it will generate a random string of the given length. So I want to go into the detail of this method. It will be a simple method. It will generate uh, a random character length times, and it will append them. So I have pasted the code to generate random string of the given length. Now let's go to client service, and here I will just say string client ID will be util dot generate random string of length 32. Now we have a client ID, but it is possible. It's very unlikely, but it might be possible that there is already a client with the given client ID. So what we are going to do is while this dot client repository dot find by ID client ID dot is present. If there is any record with the given client ID, in that case we want to generate a new client ID. So client ID equal to util dot generate random string of 32 character long. Now we are sure that there is no client with the given client ID. So what we can do is client dot set ID client ID and client dot set realm ID, and we will get realm ID here, realm ID. Now since this is a new client, so set create true, and let's return this dot client repository dot save client. Now let's create a method to get all the clients as well. Public iterable client get all, but we will get all the clients with the given realm ID only, string realm ID. So let's return this dot client repository dot get or find. So let's go to client repository first, and here create a method all iterable client find all by realm ID, and it will accept a realm ID. Now we can use this method in the client service. So find all by realm ID, and this is a realm ID. Let's also create a method to get a client by ID. So public client get by ID string client ID. So let's return this dot client repository dot find by ID, and this is the client ID. Okay, so yeah, this maybe null, so or else null. So if there is no client with a given client ID, let's just return null. Now let's create client controller as well. New Java class client controller. This will be REST controller, and let's have some request mapping here. So the request mapping will be of this type: realms and then realm ID, okay, and then clients. So this is the request mapping. And first of all, let's create a post mapping to create a new client. Public client create, and we will have few things. First is path variable, and the path variable is realm ID. So this is matching with this one, and its type is string, and let's give it a variable name realm ID, and it will have request body, and the type will be client. Let's say client, and return this dot service. Now we need client service here, private final client service, and let's make it constructor parameter. This dot client service dot create a client and we have a client and realm ID as arguments. So yeah, just that. Now let's rerun the app. Go to util. What is the error? There is one error. Array list. Okay. Let's save everything. Go here. Rerun the app. Let's create a new HTTP request. So new HTTP request. Let's see clients. So first create new client. It will be post request to HTTP localhost 8080 and this one. So realm ID. So we need a realm ID. Let's just say first realm here, and this header content type application JSON. Now let's see what do we need to provide. So go to client. We don't need to provide ID because we'll generate that. We don't need to provide realm ID because that is in the URL. We need to provide name if it's confidential or not, and then these three URLs. So let's do that. So the first thing is name, and name is, let's just say first client, and confidential, let's say true. Let's make it true. Then we have sign in redirect URIs, and let's say HTTP localhost whatever, let's say 58081, and HTTP localhost 5001. Okay, now let's say sign out redirect URIs P localhost, let's say 8081. Yeah, and here let's add auth callback here as well, auth callback, and let's say web origins localhost 5001. Let's send this request, and we are getting the client ID back. We are not getting any other information because we have not created setters for anything else. So let's go to client here and generate setter for everything. Generate getter. We want to generate getter for realm ID, name is confidential, sign in redirect URI, sign out redirect URI, and web origin. Not for each create because we don't want that in the JSON response. Save it and let's run it again. And meanwhile, let's copy this ID, and because we will create another request which is get client by ID. It will be a get request to the this endpoint which is HTTP localhost 8080 realms ID, and the ID is first realm clients, and then this is client ID. So we can get a client using this ID. But meanwhile, let's create another client which is not confidential. So confidential will be false, and second client. Let's Now you can see we are getting confidential false, web origin, sign in redirect, URI sign out redirect, URI is name, realm ID. Realm ID is first realm, name is second client, and this is the ID. So let's copy first and copy this ID. Okay. For now we don't have these endpoints in client controller, but let's just create them. So get mapping get mapping to, let's say, client ID and public client get. Now we have two path variables. First path variable for realm ID, the second path variable for client ID. Let's just return this dot client service dot get by ID. So client ID. Okay. So we are getting a client using its ID. So in that case, let's just remove this one. Okay. Now let's have another endpoint to get all the clients for a realm. So we won't have anything here. So get all realm ID, get all realm ID, and it will be list of clients. Save it and rerun the application. Okay, let's go to clients HTTP request here. Send this request. Now we are getting this. So confidential false. And for the second one as well, confidential is false. And why is that? Let's go to client, and now we have each confidential, so we need to use that instead. Go to clients and it will be each confidential. Let's make it true. Send this request. Now we can see confidential is true. Now let's copy this request, paste it here, and send this request. Now we can see confidential true. Now let's send another request with just this one, and we get three clients back. So now we are able to register a new client. So we don't have any facility to update the client. For example, if the developer later wants to change the name, web origins, the URIs or anything, we are not giving them this functionality. You should do that if you are building an authorization server. Also, you need to take security into consideration. You should not allow everyone to create any client application in any realm. You should first authenticate them and then you should check if they have the access to create particular client application or not. Now in the next part, we will work with client secret generation. Welcome everyone to the fifth part of the video where we will generate client secret for a client. Let's create one new class called client secret, and the table name is client secrets. Now we will it the ID will be of type integer only, private integer ID. Then we will have a string which will be client ID. We are not including client secret in client because one client may have multiple client secrets. Client ID, and then we have private string, the actual secret. So let's create a constructor here. Let's generate constructor with everything, and let's generate getter methods. We are good here. Now we need to create a client secret repository, and this extends. So this should be interface, and this extends CRUD repository, and the type of entity is client secret, and the type of primary key is integer. Let's go to client secret again, and add that repository here. Private final secret repository, and add it to the constructor parameter. Now public, we will return client secret whenever developer wants to generate a new client secret for the given client. Generate secret, and we will get few things. The first thing we will get is realm ID. The second thing we will get is client ID. So let's just get the client from the database. So client client equal to client repository dot find by ID, client ID dot or else null. But if the client is null, let's return new runtime exception, which is client with ID equal to client ID does not exist, and so throw new. But let's say if the client exists, but its realm ID does not match to the realm ID which is provided here. If client dot get realm ID dot equals realm ID, and so that means if it's not same, then let's throw new runtime exception invalid realm ID, just like that. Now we know that the client exists and its realm ID is same. Now we need to generate a secret. So let's see the steps. How do we do that? So the secret is a secure random bytes. So this is the library secure random. So we can use secure random, random equal to new secure random, and we can generate uh, random bytes using next bytes method. So let's do that. In the util, I will create a method to generate secure random bytes of the given length. So public static byte. The method name will be generate secure random bytes, and it will take length. So this is the code. Let's just copy the code and paste it here. Secure random equal to new secure random bytes equal to new bytes. Instead of 20, let's give length and random dot next bytes, and after that let's return bytes. So we will create 32 random bytes, and then we will create hexadecimal strings of those bytes. I already have created a function to convert bytes array into hexadecimal string. So I will just copy and paste that here. This is the method bytes to hex. It accepts an byte array and it returns a string which is hexadecimal representation of the given bytes. So we will use that one. Let's go to client service, and here let's generate bytes secure bytes equal to util dot generate secure random bytes, and we will generate bytes of length 32. And after that, we will convert this to hexadecimal string. So string secret equal to util dot bytes to hex secure bytes. Now this is the secret which we need to send to the user, but we don't want to store this secret as it is in the database. We want to encrypt this secret and then store it in the database. In order to encrypt the secret or generate hash of the secret, we can use an algorithm called pbkdf2. So in order to use that, first of all, we need to create a salt which should be unique for each secret. In order to generate this salt, we can just use this generate secure random bytes. So let's do that. I will say byte salt will be util dot generate secure random bytes, and let's generate a salt of length 32. Now we have secret and we have salt, and let's create hash. So string hash secret will be util dot hash. It will take secret and salt. So let's create this hash method. Create method string secret and bytes salt. First of all, we need to create a PB key spec. So we can use this constructor here, PB key spec. So let's do that. PB key spec equal to new PB key spec. It needs few things: the password, salt, iteration count, and key length. So let's give that. So password should be character array. It is secret dot to char array. Then it needs salt, so which is byte array salt. Then iteration count, let's put 10, and then the key length. So this is length of the key. So let's use 512. After that, we need to create a secret key factory. Secret factory key factory equal to secret key factory dot get instance, and get instance method takes the name of the algorithm. So you can find that here. So this is secret key factory, and this is get instance. Okay, secret key factory dot get instance, and it takes the algorithm name, and you can find the algorithm names here, and we are going to use this one. Let's copy it and paste it here as a string. So this is the algorithm name, and it returns, I think it throws exception. So add exception to method signature. Now let's generate hash using generate hash method of the key factory. So key factory dot generate secret, and it needs key spec. So pb key spec dot get encoded. This also throws error. So add exception to method signature bytes equal to this one. Now we need to convert this bytes array to base 64 string. So let's return base 64 dot get encoder dot encode to string bytes, and we will just return it. Now we have one problem here. What we are going to do is surround with try catch. So now we have hashed secret which we can store in the database, but there is a cache. We also need to store the salt as well along with hashed secret. So let's go to, I will just copy and paste the SQL to create a table for client secrets here. So I pasted the code to create client secrets table. It has primary key ID of type serial, that means auto increment integer, then client ID, then secret, and then the salt. So let's go to client secret. Now we need to store the salt. So go to client service. Now we have salt, but we need to store it in string format. So let's create base 64 encoding of this salt. So string salt string equal to base 64 dot get encoder dot encode to string salt. Now we have a salt. So let's create client secret to save will be new client secret. Now this client secret should take salt as well. So let's create private string salt here, and this dot salt equal to salt, and string. We don't need to create getter for it, or do we? Yeah, we need to. So let's say get salt here. but we will ignore it. So let's say JSON ignore properties because we don't want to return salt to the user. And actually, we won't have any salt if we want to return something. And okay, there is one problem here. Yes. So new client secret, it needs few things. First is ID, which will be null, and if it's null, then it will be auto generated. Then we have client ID. Then we have secret. So that means hashed secret and salt string. And we will save this to the database. So let's do that. So I will say secret to save equal to this dot secret repository dot save secret to save. Now since we did not have any ID here, now we know what is the ID. So what we can do is create another client secret to return new client secret. The ID will be secret to save dot ID. Then we need client ID. Then we need the secret. So here we won't return the hashed secret. We need to return the actual secret. So which is this one, secret. So return secret, and then salt will be null. So there is no salt. Okay, and let's return it. So instead of storing it in a variable, let's just return it. And here we will throw new runtime exception EE. Okay, so think we are good here. Post mapping, because we will create a new secret, and we need client ID, and let's say secrets. So this will be the path, public client secret generate secret. Now it needs path variable string realm ID and path variable string client ID. Realm ID, client ID, and nothing else. It won't take anything else. And let's return this dot client service dot generate secret realm ID client ID. Now it has something. Okay, that should not be dollar. Let's save it, restart the application, and send the request here. So go to clients. Now after this, we will just say secrets. One more thing we forgot is while generating a secret, the client should be confidential. So if not client dot is confidential, then we will throw new runtime exception, which is client with ID equal to client ID is not confidential, so we cannot generate client secret for it. So save it and run the application again. And since the application is running, let's go to clients and generate a secret for it. It will be post. So you can see this is the ID, this is client ID, and this is the secret. So if you just say get, let's see whether it was confidential or not. Okay, we can see it is a confidential client since confidential is true. Now let's see, or let's get any client which is not confidential. So this client is not confidential. So copy its ID, paste it here, and secrets, run it. As a method not allowed, get is not allowed, yeah, because this would be post. So we are not allowing retrieving the client secrets. You can see client with ID is not confidential, so we cannot generate client secret. So that's how we generate client secrets for it. So we are not giving developer the option to modify the client secret or to see the client secret once it has been generated. So the developer needs to store the client secret in a safe place, or if he forgets the client secret, then he can generate a new client secret and he can delete the old one. So yeah, let's add the functionality to delete the old client secret. So I will go to again client controller, and I will say public void delete secret. We need these things, and it will be delete mapping. The path will be client ID, then secret, then the secret ID. So we need all these things, realm ID, client ID, and then path variable, secret ID, string, secret ID, and there should not be any dollar. Return this dot client service dot delete secret, realm ID, client ID, and secret ID. Let's create this method inside client service. Or first of all, let's see if this client exists or not. Client equal to this dot client repository dot find by ID client ID. Now let's say if or else null. Now let's say if client is null or client dot not client dot get realm ID dot equals realm ID throw new runtime exception cannot delete the secret client secret equal to this dot secret repository dot find by id. It should be integer, so secret id should be integer, find by id secret id, or else null, or else null. If client secret equal to null or client secret dot client id equals client id. If the client secret is null or the client id of this client secret is not equal to the client id which is passed to this method, then also we'll throw this thing here. Otherwise we will just delete it. So this dot secret repository dot delete by id, and id will be the secret id, one related problem, and this would be integer. Go to clients and we can delete the secrets. So we have secret id, let's say 1. Let's delete the secret with secret id 3, and the method will be delete. Let's see, we need to restart the application. Now let's do this. Cannot delete the secret because the secret doesn't exist. Now let's use 1 here. Cannot delete the secret because I don't know why. Maybe this is not a confidential client. So first let's get the list of all the clients. So we generated the secret for this client. Control C, Control V. This is a client ID, this is secret, this is secret ID. Delete it, and it has been deleted. Now if we try to delete it again. There is no secret, so you can't delete it. So that's it for this video. In this video, we have seen how to register new client applications in your authorization server, and how to generate their client secrets, and how to store them securely in your database. I will meet you in the next one. Until then, keep learning. Thanks. Bye.